and welcome back to Next Level Catch-ups 2.0 for General Biology. In the previous lesson, we discussed about the um, different types of plant tissues. So as we dive deeper into general biology, we'll be discussing today the different types of animal tissues. So let's get started. So in animal tissues, there are four types. There are four main types of or four kinds of animal tissues. First one is the epithelial tissue. Second is the nervous tissue. Third is the muscle tissue. And last is the connective tissue. So under these four main different kinds of tissues, um, um, there are more subcategories with different and much more specific purposes and shapes and whatnot. So let's proceed to the epithelial tissue. The epithelial tissue is a kind of tissue, thin kind of animal tissue that um, is packed together tightly. So they're present in different parts of the body, from body cavities, skin, and they also line the different tubes and internal organs to serve as a protection. So they can be classified in a number of ways. They can be classified with the number of cell layers and also the shape of the cell. So under this, we have what I believe um, more than eight types. So let's explore the different types of epithelial tissue. So in epithelial tissue, there are two layers. Well, not two layers, but more of two surfaces or two sides. So if it's facing the outside, it's called as the apical or apical layer. And then and when it's facing when it's the base of the tissue, it's what we call as the basal tissue. So that in epithelial tissue, as I mentioned earlier, it can be classified depending on the shape and whether it has the number of layers as well. In epithelial tissue, it can be classified in three different shapes or two different layers. So in those three shapes, it could be squamous, cuboidal, or columnar. While in the uh, classification of layers, it could be classified if it's a single layer or if it has two or more layers. When it's a single layer, it's a simple epithelial tissue. And then when it's has more than two layers, it is called as the stratified epithelial tissue. So in the first type of the squamous epithelial tissue, it's called as the simple squamous epithelium tissue. So it's simple because it has one layer, and squamous because it's squished in shape. So this type of layer is very thin, and it lines the heart and blood vessels. Also lines the walls of the alveoli and the lining of lymphatic vessels. So the main function of this type of epithelium is that it promotes easy exchange, gas exchange, and nutrient exchange because of its thin nature. Aside from that, it has a very smooth surface which promotes easy fluid flow. So in the case of blood and the exchange of oxygen, so that's the main purpose of simple squamous epithelium. Next up, we have the simple cuboidal epithelium. So this type of epithelium is present in organs or yeah organs that secrete substances. So an example of this are the liver, the salivary glands, and the pancreas. So its main function is suitable for absorption and secretion of molecules because of its rich organelle. So it absorbs different uh, nutrients from the um, external environment or its near environment, and also serves as a protection because of its organelle-rich body, organelle-rich cytoplasm rather. The simple cuboidal epithelium has a more protective layer than the previous example. Up next, we have the simple columnar epithelium. So, similar to the cuboidal epithelium, the simple columnar epithelium also lines some organs, and um, this also secretes and absorbs different molecules or substances. So, in the examples here, it's located in the walls of the intestine, the stomach, the bronchus, and the gallbladder. They are far greater in their widths. So they are far greater in their height rather than their widths. So it's longer. It's a longer tissue. And these tissues, they have the structure to excuse me. They have the structure to protect the aforementioned organelles. Organs, not organelles. Up next, we have the pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So why is it called the pseudostratified columnar epithelium? So let's break down the word first. Pseudostratified. Pseudo meaning pretending, and stratified meaning two layers. So it's pretending to have two layers. So in the pseudostratified columnar epithelium, it's called as the pseudostratified because it it appears that it has two layers. However, it's actually just one layer that is um that has an irregular shape to its component. So it's present in the linings of the trachea and upper respiratory tract and is more on the secretion and moving of mucus. Up next we have the stratified squamous epithelium. So um These, this is a type of animal tissue that has several layers of squamous epithelium. So, as uh, as we mentioned earlier, when it's stratified, it has more than two layers, two or more layers. So, the stratified squamous epithelium is present in the esophagus, the larynx, the pharynx, and vagina and anus, and even the outer layer of the cornea. So, this type of epithelium is used to prevent water loss and debridement. So, a- as we can notice, the location of the stratified squamous epithelium are very sensitive areas, so it needs to be protected by being lubricated at all times. So, yeah, that's the primary function. Next up, we have the stratified cuboidal epithelium. Yung stratified cuboidal epithelium, it's several layers of cuboidal epithelium. So as we mentioned earlier, epithelium, a simple cuboidal epithelium, nag-aano siya, ah, nag nagsisecrete and nag-a-absorb ng different nutrients or molecules or substances. So the stratified cuboidal epithelium, located siya sa ovarian follicles, linings of uh, ducts of the sweat glands, mammary glands, and other organs. So, ang main purpose niya is to protect what is underneath it. So, um, underneath underneath the stratified cuboidal epithelium, they are also very sensitive parts of our bodies. So, they need that added layer of protection from the stratified cuboidal epithelium. Next up, we have the stratified columnar epithelium. So, the stratified columnar epithelium is layers of columnar epithelium. So it's located at large ducts and even in the taste buds of our tongue and even in the organs of the ear. So it's suitable for secretion and protection. Um, this this type of epithelium is important because um, these the where it's present is also very sensitive, so it needs a more more protective structure. And also some of these need a sensing stimuli, which the stratified columnar epithelium has in able to help it achieve its function or do its function. So simple stratified columnar epithelium can have specialized structures to sense stimuli, which helps with the where it's located. So for example, in the taste buds of the tongue, it has could help it in tasting whatever we're eating and the like. Last one, we have the transitional epithelium. So the transitional epithelium is believed to have been thought, o dati akala natin, na transition region lang siya from stratified squamous epithelium to stratified columnar one. So parang observe natin na parang, uy, ito parang um, from the squish shape, parang pahaba ng pahaba. But turns out it's a different type of epithelium in of itself, where it lines the kidney, the gallbladder, and is present in the urinary system as well. So this transitional epithelium, since it has different shapes to its epithelium, it allows the organ to be stretchable or flexible. So, for example, in the bladder, we all know that our bladder expands as it gets full. So it's important that the lining of it, or yeah, the lining of it is also expandable so that uh, it can do its purpose uh, correctly, so that it stretches and has a larger um, holding limit, kumbaga. Next one, we have the connective tissues. Now, the connective tissues are tissues that are composed of cells that are dispersed in extracellular matrix. Has three main components: the cell, the ground substance, and the fibers. So dito sa connective tissue, we also have two main types, which also has a lot of subtypes, just like the previous uh, epithelial tissue. So let's get straight into it. So for the first one, we have what we call the loose or connective tissues. Now, the loose connective tissues are tissues that are loosely packed and they have a lot of fibers. So it has very a structure that holds our organs in place or allows for movement. Up next we have the dense connective tissues. Now the dense connective tissues, it has fewer cells but are but is more highly packed or tightly packed than the loose connective tissues. Now, this one is there to hold our organs in place better than, not better, but hold it more in place than loose connective tissues. Now, for the specialized connective tissues, we have first up is the reticular connective tissue. So, the reticular connective tissue allows Uh, let's get straight into what its structure rather. So for our specialized connective tissue, it's abundant in the reticular fiber that are tightly and interlaced. So for the reticular connective tissue, it's there mainly to support the lymph nodes of our organs so that it forms a network so it's easily connected. Next, we have what we call as the cartilage. The cartilage acts as a shock absorber between points and contacts between the bones. So, produces friction, tsaka para hindi siya magkikiskisan. So, yun nga, reduces friction nga. So, it reduces friction tapos it avoids it from being destroyed. So, So cartilage, we have three types: the hyaline cartilage, the fibrocartilage, and the elastic cartilage. So ang hyaline cartilage, it's flexible, elastic, pero it's dense. Ang fibrocartilage naman, it's inflexible, so hindi siya ganun flexible. Strong, pero super rigid siya. Ngayon, ang elastic cartilage, as its name suggests, it's the most flexible and has many elastic fibers, meaning that it's very bendy, gano'n. Ngayon, fun fact about this is that uh, our cartilages, specifically the hyaline cartilages, can go under can undergo a process which is called the endochondral ossification. Ang endochondral ossification is when our cartilages turn into bone. So this is what happens sa mga infants bago para magkaroon sila ng buto, like more bones. So speaking of bones, bones are actually connective tissues. Now, bones are there to support our body. So support our body, and then it's mainly made out of collagen fibers and is embedded with different minerals and whatnot. So under the bones, we have different cells that are important to its maintenance or growth or destruction, but mainly there to maintain it. So sa specialized connective tissues natin sa bone, we have what we call as osteoblasts, osteocytes, and osteoclasts. Ang osteoblast, siya yung tumutulong para mag-heal yung bone pag nasira or tatanggalin yung um, they're there to form new bones rather. So, yun yun. Sa osteocytes naman, siya yung pinakamatagal na bone cell. And then si osteoclast naman, siya yung sumisira sa um, mga damaged bone cells na hindi na natin kailangan. So, papasok. Kunwari, may bali ka, papasok si osteoclast para sirain yung mga, not sirain, but to break down yung mga damaged bone cells. After that, papasok naman si osteoblast para ayusin yung mga damaged bone cells mo para magkaroon ka ng bagong bones. Up next, we have the blood. Now, the blood has three main parts, or three main cell types of blood. So, we have the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. Yung red blood cells, siya yung nagkakarry ng oxygen sa different parts ng katawan natin. So, white blood cells naman siya yung immune system natin. And then, si platelets naman, they're there to um, allow us not to lose too much blood when we have wounds. So, it's all over our body. So, blood vessels natin, as we all know. For the last one, we have the adipose tissue. And the adipose tissue is a connective tissue that stores energy in the form of fats. So, ito ay very more on storage siya. So, with that in mind, so since it's for storage, it's also for protection and insulation. So, an example of this could be the buttocks, which is a good shock absorber. So, kunwari, pag nahulog tayo, ang sumalo, yung puwet natin, hindi siya ganun kasakit. And then the same goes, pag medyo nilalamig tayo, we could tuck our hands under our buttocks and it would feel warmer, kumbaga. So, adipose tissue is actually can be found anywhere in the body, throughout the body. Pero an example, yun nga, an example of adipose tissue na parang very good example is the buttocks. So let's proceed to the muscle tissue. Now the muscle tissue is a special kind of tissue kasi it's the only type of tissue that can contract. So means it's yung nakakagalaw ng ganun. Basta nagko-contract. Siya lang yung nagko-contract. So ang muscle tissue natin, ang important sa kanya is yung number of nucleus or the nuclei, striations, and the type of contractions. So ang striations is the type of muscle appears to be alternating bands. So
yung pag-iiba-iba ng mga bands na yun are the striations. Now, the type of contraction naman is how the muscle moves, and the number of nuclei is self-explanatory. So, this is a table of different kinds of muscle tissue. So we have the skeletal, the smooth, and the cardiac tissue, cardial muscle tissue. So in the skeletal muscle tissue, they are striated in appearance and they move voluntarily. So it's attached to bones and tendons and maintains our posture. And the smooth muscle tissue are not striated, so they are present in the digestive and respiratory tracts and the internal organs, and also controls the movement of our internal organs. Our cardiac muscle tissue naman, they are striated in appearance, pero compared sa skeletal muscle tissue, it's involuntary. It's involuntary. So it moves on its own without it being needed to be commanded. So it's present in the heart and pumps blood. So this is what these striations look like. So this is for skeletal muscle tissues. These are for the cardiac muscle tissues, and these are the smooth muscle tissues.
Up next, and the final type of animal tissue for our lesson is the nervous tissue. So the nervous tissue is formed by two types. We have the neurons and also the um, glia. So the neurons are the main cells of the nervous tissue. So they're responsible to create and transmit electrical signals. So pag may stimuli tayo nakuha from the external environment, siya yung magpa-process nun, magdi-distribute ng electrical signals on what to do. So the neurons have a cell and a nucleus and other organelles. So dito sa neurons na to, siya yung may mga parts siya na nag-extend to connect to other fellow neurons para doon dadaan yung mga electrical signals. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have what we call as the glial cells. Now, the glial cells are exactly any cell na nasa uh, nervous system natin na hindi neuron. So, there are the Schwann cells, the oligodendrocytes, the microglial cells. So lahat yan are gli glial cells. Ibig sabihin hindi sila neurons. That's primarily it. So that's it for our lesson regarding the different animal tissues. I'll catch you later for our next lesson. Thank you for watching.